Are you wasting your money? Let's get down to business. Hey everyone, I'm Brandon, I'm a CPA, and today we're going to talk about my top 5 biggest money wasters that you should be avoiding. And a quick note before we get started, if you want to receive 2 free stocks using a trading platform called Webull, click on the link in the description below. All you have to do is create an account and deposit $100. And now let's get on to the video. Everybody spends a little bit of money here and there that they may not be the most proud of, or they may not spend it in the most responsible way. But what many people don't realize is that this discretionary spending actually adds up a lot over time and provides very little benefit. So here are my top 5 biggest money wasters. Number 1, going out to eat. So going out to eat can be a really great experience to treat yourself or others to a nice meal, a nice atmosphere, but it can be pretty pricey. Restaurants typically mark their food items about 300% from wholesale prices, and that cost gets passed on straight to you. So you really end up paying an exorbitant amount of money for this food. And not to mention the additional 20% recommended tip that gets added on after the fact that you have to pay for. And so what the genius about this is that it actually tricks us into thinking that we're actually paying for the price that's on the menu and not realizing, because we don't do the math up front, that we're actually paying an additional 20% afterward. And taking into consideration all the different aspects of the meal, the appetizer, the entree, the desserts, the drinks, the tip, it really adds up pretty quickly. And this is why it's really no surprise that the average American typically spends $3,000 to $4,000 every year just on going out to eat. And not to mention, if you live in a big city, you probably spend a lot more on that. Really, my recommendation is to cook your own meals as often as you can. Not only does it save you a ton of money in the long term just by buying your own groceries and cooking your own food, it's also pretty easy to do. And if you don't know how to cook, you can always just look up a recipe or look on YouTube and get inspired to try to cook. But it also saves a significant amount of time, because just by going into a restaurant, driving there, getting waited on, etc., it actually saves quite a bit of time just to cook your own meal. And added benefit, you can also meal prep and eat your leftovers if you're into that, and that saves you additional money in the long term as well. Number 2, buying new cars. So buying a car is typically the second largest item you'll buy in your lifetime, right behind buying a house. And in the United States, the average new car price is about $37,000. And what's really alarming about this is that the average US individual income is around $40,000. So what's really staggering is that there are a lot of people out there that are buying brand new cars at $37,000 with incomes of $40,000. Really, they can't afford it. It's really not within their budget to do so. And what's the worst part about this is that new cars depreciate the most out of all the cars. In the first 5 years, the average depreciation is about 60%. So in 5 years, your car is only worth 40% of what you paid for it. It really just doesn't make a lot of sense to buy a new car considering the depreciation, and most commonly, many people finance their cars. So on top of it, you're also paying interest on your already depreciating item. So my recommendation is to not be blinded by the bells and whistles and the fanciness of having a new car, and really buy something that you can, 1, afford, but 2, something that's used, because the depreciation already has dropped off quite significantly. And so really you're mitigating a lot of that risk of buying a depreciated asset or an underwater asset, really. And if you take this tip, this will save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run, as long as you buy a reliable car, of course. Number 3, ordering drinks. So whether you're ordering coffee, alcohol, or soda, drinks are by far the most marked up item in any establishment, with the typical markup being 300% to 500%. And what's interesting about this, more than what we just talked about a couple minutes ago about going out to restaurants, is that the drink prices can really sneak up on you. And this is because, well, drinks really aren't that filling. So my recommendation is, if you're gonna drink basically anything other than water, try to drink it as much as you can at home, because it's just a lot less expensive that way. 4, trying to impress others. So whether it's buying a big house, a fancy car, jewelry, designer clothes, really whatever it is, if you're spending your money in order to impress others, you're really wasting your money. And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to have nice things. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is if your main goal is to try to impress others, it's really a waste of money and it's a waste of time, because not only do most people not care, but it's really not a benefit to you in any way. In some circumstances, yes, if you're at a fancy event, obviously you want to be wearing the proper attire, etc. But in the majority of cases, really it just makes a lot more sense to just budget for what you can and spend the money on practical items, practical clothes, practical cars, and practical houses. So my recommendation is, if you have to buy expensive items, make sure it's within budget, make sure you try to find the best deals possible, and really don't buy things just to impress other people. Number 5, credit card debt. So in the United States, the average credit card debt is about $6,000, and this can be a major expense and a huge waste of money. So on average, the credit card interest rate is about 18%, but it's really not uncommon to see interest rates as high as 25 or even higher than that. So using 25% as our baseline, if you had $6,000 in credit card debt, you would be paying about $125 per month or $1,500 a year, which really would be money thrown down the drain. And typically, if you have credit card debt, it's really common to see people just paying the minimum. So what ends up happening is the balance keeps on growing and growing and growing and growing. So you end up paying even more and more monthly. So it ends up being kind of this death spiral where you're just paying interest and interest and interest, and it's very difficult to get out of. So my biggest recommendation here is to pay your credit card off and really only buy things that you can afford to spend the money on. So if you keep track of your finances, make a budget, pay your credit card on time, you really won't have to worry about any of this and pay that exorbitant interest amount. And an added bonus is that you also boost your credit score. And so those are my top 5 biggest money wasters. And if you avoid all of these, you'll be sure to save a ton of money in the long term. So is there anything on my list that you're guilty of spending money on? And also, is there anything that you would add to my list? Leave it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear about it. So if you've made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon if you want to get notified whenever I make a new video. And don't forget to check the links out in the description below. I've got a lot of great stuff down there, including some free stocks, some rewards, and also my recommended book list. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.